Thank you, David, for that beautiful music to get us started. I want to say thank you to our extended family that recognizes the urgency of now in terms of the climate fight here in Minnesota. When we have urgency, we ask for solidarity. When you have urgency, you ask for solidarity. It is the quality, the depth, and the breadth, and the love in our solidarity with each other in this climate justice movement that will deliver the results that we're all looking for in terms of national mobilization and global mobilization to keep greenhouse gases down, move them down to 350 parts per million or less, and also to move all of the world along a just transition pathway so that we can live our lives and pass on to future generations a future full of loving and caring for the earth as good relatives, loving and caring for each other as good relatives, and loving and caring for the future that we caretake together as though it's a sacred garden. So tonight, you are getting the blessing of hearing from some of the most powerful, gifted, committed people who are on the front line as we speak in northern Minnesota and who have been in solidarity with our fight here and with the fight of our other relatives all over Mother Earth since the climate movement, increased its level of urgency with the founding of 350 affiliates all over the United States and now in 180 countries around the planet. So we want to stop the Line 3 pipeline. That's what we're here to do. And let's just take a moment and breathe in our spirits and acknowledge we will succeed in this fight because it's necessary to succeed in this fight. We need to establish this as a national priority and get everybody in our particular ecosystems, our movement ecologies, to resonate and move on this right now and until we win. And after we win on all of the fights in the other landscapes where the fossil fuel infrastructure is continuing to find a way to sneak in and hurt the earth and hurt our families and children and the future. And we need to make sure that all of the eyes of the world are paying attention, are watching, and are engaging, and are ready to come in solidarity with us and help us stop this pipeline and stop the entire money pipeline that is feeding this addiction that's hurting all of us. Tonight, we have the pleasure of hearing from a lot of Indigenous leaders who are here. So among the people who are speaking tonight are Winona LaDuke, Tara Houska, and Tasha Martineau. These three are living and breathing on the front line, being impacted by the structural violence caused by Enbridge's construction workers moving in because of the failure, the fundamental failure of our government to honor treaty rights and listen to the majority of voices in northern Minnesota who've been saying clearly and consistently, the science demands this pipeline not be built, the economics demand that this pipeline not be built, and the people demand that this pipeline not be built. So I want to first introduce a person who I think really doesn't need an introduction because she's one of the most famous and loved national level activators all over the world. And I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with her for many, many years since I first met Winona at a gathering of the North American Bioregional Congress in 1985. I don't know if you remember that, Winona, but I'm sure you do because you have a better memory than I do. So she's internationally renowned as an activist working on the issues of sustainable development, renewable energy, and food systems, living and working on the White Earth Nation in northern Minnesota, two-time vice presidential candidate with Ralph Nader. As a program director for Honor the Earth, she's working nationally and internationally on issues of climate change, renewable energy, environmental justice with indigenous communities, and her own community. She's the founder of the White Earth Land Recovery Project, one of the largest reservation-based nonprofit organizations in the country, and is a leader on the issues of culturally based sustainable development strategies, renewable energy and food, and is also working to nationally and internationally to protect indigenous plant and food heritage foods from patenting and genetic engineering. So Winona, thanks for being who you are and the way you throw down in all the ways, loving the earth and loving the people and challenging us all to step up and be the better relatives that we need to be with our native nations right now. The floor is yours, my dear sister.
Ani Nindawe Magadajuk. Hello, my relatives. Thanks, Sam, for the gracious introduction. And I just want to thank you all for being here tonight, all my relatives. I want to say that I'm here today. I put my prayers in the Shell River, and I put my prayers in the Crow Wing River, two of the rivers that are part of the heartland of this place where we live here. You know, I call this a land where we live is where life is. It's where where the wild things are, such biodiversity and so much water. You know, the heartland of the Great Lakes, and the rivers here go to the north and to the south. And this is the rivers that Enbridge wants to take for themselves. You know, it's ironic that as I talk to you tonight, I'm sitting at the 8th Fire Solar, a tribal renewable energy, you know, project, you know, where we sell solar panels. And why are we here? You know, at this moment in time, they call this the time of the 7th fire. You got a choice between two paths. One is well worn and scorched, and the other is green. And it is our moment to make that transition. That's what we got to do. Or I'll tell you what, we're going to be fighting over rocks and pipes for 20 years. Time to move on. Time for a just transition. Time to make something beautiful. As Aaron Dottie Roy refers to pandemic as portal, this is that portal. And we must stand together. You know, we're in the last stages of what we call Windigo capitalism. The fossil fuel industry 20 years ago, Exxon was top dog for a few decades. Where are they now? They are no longer. The tech companies have taken over. The future is not about fossil fuels. The future is about renewable energy, local foods. The future is about infrastructure which matters to people, not infrastructure for multinational corporations. And the future is about laws and justice and what we call the Green New Revolution, which is the hemp economy. That's what we're working on up here. So we're all ready. In the meantime, what you got is the most backwards infrastructure project in the North. You know, I think this is Waltz's equivalent to the wall. It's like Waltz's wall, a giant infrastructure project that Governor Waltz has approved for no apparent reason. I mean, the economics of tar sands oil last time we saw was minus $38 a barrel oil on the world markets, and now it's at 45. Tar sands oil, 82 bucks a barrel to get out of the ground. And if it gets into this pipe, this is the largest tar sands pipeline in the world. You know, Minnesota, we don't want to go small. I got to go big. Got to get the biggest damn pipe. 915,000 barrels a day of just junk. And you know how much energy it takes to move that? All of Enbridge's main line, which is 75% of the tar sands oil coming into this country, all of that energy is the equivalent of 2 nuclear power plants. Enbridge is the largest energy consumer in the state of Minnesota. What kind of dumb economy is that? Like moving sludge takes so much energy, and now here we are. 7 years. Our people, Anishinaabe people, have fought this project. We fought it for our water, because our water is our life, and it is everybody else's life as well. We fought this for our rice, because this is the only place in the world that wild rice exists, and this is where we live. This is the only place in the world where we live. And we fought this because we know that now is the time to stand for future generations. We have jumped through every hoop. We have participated in every regulatory hearing. We've been slapped time and time again by the Public Utilities Commission, the Department of Natural Resources, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and the governor. The tribes of northern Minnesota, White Earth, and Red Lake have been slapped. And all of our people have, you know, as we look at this crazy Canadian project. And what we see now is after all of these battles where we did not miss a step, we filed every appeal on time. We showed up in court. We drove thousands of miles as a community to make the system work. What we are now facing is this pipeline with all of these approvals under some fantasy, you know, that this is a future. What this brings us is pipeliners from out of state by the thousands. The cars up here, the trucks are all from Texas. 4,200 workers coming into our territory. What this gives us is 630 million gallons of water being shipped out by Enbridge or dewatered and who knows, destroyed. And what this gives us is the equivalent of 50 new coal-fired power plants in a time of climate crisis. What a ridiculous situation. And so here we are at this moment, you know, and what we need you to do is to stand with us and challenge this. The White Earth Band of Ojibwe, the Red Lake Nation, honor the earth. You know, we have all, joining with the Friends of the Headwaters, filed suit after suit and have appealed every one of their decisions, asking for a stay in a pandemic, a pipeline in a pandemic. What are you doing, Governor Walz? A pipeline during a pandemic? Do you really hate us that much? Really? And then, you know, beyond that, we have appealed the certificate of need, and we have appealed the route. And we did that with the state of Minnesota. What we want is our day in court. Give us our day in court. And what everybody here knows is that pipelines don't do well in court. No new pipelines have been built. You know, what we have here is the last tar sands pipeline. And what a piece of junk of a legacy. You know, the last tar sands pipeline. That's like the last bad idea. So I'm here ready to pass this off to the next great person. So grateful for your attention to this. You know, we pray by our water. I'm legally considered a Chippewa of the Mississippi under the law. And my lodge is on the edge of the Mississippi River. And when I returned to my lodge on Friday of last week, there was an Enbridge stake in the middle of my lodge. I said, what kind of company puts a stake in the heart of your ceremonial structure? Where are you, Governor Walz? Where are you and what are you doing? You know, so right now I gotta stop work on my lodge. And they said they would not plow me in my lodge under. But you know, we have a right to pray by the river. And we have a right to not have our public lands taken for a Canadian multinational, and we're gonna stand for that. We're gonna stand for the public trust and for the water. So, you know, please do join us. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Winona, for your words, your wisdom, your warriorship, your love. You have practiced such a level of humanity in this fight to those who are making the wrong decisions. And it's unfortunate for all of us that they're not listening. So now we will get the pleasure of listening to another warrior relative, Tara Houska, from the Kuchi-Ching First Nation Anishinaabe. She's a tribal attorney, founder of the GNU Collective, and a former advisor on Native American affairs to Bernie Sanders. She spent 6 months on the front lines fighting the Dakota Access Pipeline. And she's currently really throwing down and engaged in the movement to defund fossil fuels and years-long struggle against Enbridge's Line 3 right here in northern Minnesota. She's the co-founder of Not Your Mascots, a group committed to positive representation of Native peoples. TED speaker, 2017 Harvard Public Interested Keynote, received an Awesome Woman Award, and we all who get the pleasure of working with Tara certainly know her as an awesome woman and an awesome relative, and we're lucky to have the chance to follow her leadership and practice deep solidarity with her that nourishes her spirit. In 2019, she received a Rachel's Network Catalyst Award from Melinda Gates. Oh, that was the Amazing Woman Award was from Melinda Gates. The Rachel's Network Catalyst Award is a separate award. She was featured in Women: A Century of Change by National Geographic, and she was named an icon on the cover of the Outside magazine's 40th anniversary issue. She has contributed to women-led climate anthology All We Can Save, which I hope all of you have a copy of, on your bookshelves. She's been featured in the New York Times, The Guardian, Vogue, Indian Country Today, on CNN, MSNBC, CBC, CBS, Democracy Now!, and the BBC. She lives and leads in the pipeline resistance camp in northern Minnesota. Tara, we're happy that you took time away from being on the front line to engage this as part of the front line. We're here to hear your words.
Me for that. Yeah, I came inside to take advantage of this lovely Wi-Fi over here at A Fire Solar. So it's good to see you all. Buju, Ginawa, Minawa, and Didwe Magan and Duck. Zhaabowekwe, Indigenous Makwa, and Lidane. I am I have to say it's a little hard these last few days. It's hard to listen to the machines tearing through the forest. It's not an easy sound to sit with. It's not an easy experience to come to at the end of so many years of going through the process, like Winona said, jumping through every hoop, going through every last detail and last hearing and last moment of trying to engage with these systems. My background is I'm a lawyer. I was a DC lawyer before I went out to Standing Rock, and I've been out defending the land ever since. I've seen intimately how these systems work and who they're built for and who they're influenced by. And it is a absolute travesty to see the Democratic leadership of Minnesota choosing to just toe that status quo line and not take a stand for our future generations and for Indian people. This is a direct violation of the treaty rights of the Anishinaabe people in this region. Direct. It is a continuation of the history that has been ongoing since Minnesota began, since the United States began, since Canada began. It's this history in North America of dispossession and disenfranchisement and oppression. So we're at this moment, and we have been building in the meantime. I actually moved home once they started building line 3 around the state. I sensed that this company was going to do every last bit they were going to do to bully and get their way. And here we are. So for the last 3 years, we have been on the ground training hundreds of people to engage in direct action, hundreds of people to take that ultimate stand of sacrificing your body and your freedom for something greater than yourself. I know that we're on this national digital call or whatever, and we're in this pandemic, and that's crazy to even think that we're building a pipeline during a pandemic, right? Where like Governor Walz has banned Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas with each other, but we're allowed to like have thousands of workers influx into the state. That's madness, right? But it also shows like the kind of interests that are at stake, the kind of interests that are being protected. And so, there's been a process over this last year of how to get engaged in direct action, how to get engaged in this building resistance of teaching and training people. I think there's links to this, but you can reach out to us at gnu@protonmail.com. We've got a bunch of different COVID protocols and asks for people. You can't have the same 20 people, 40 people arrested over and over again. A couple of my friends just got felonies yesterday, and in the dispersal notice yesterday, the police officers told us that they would use mace and tear gas and rubber bullets on us if we didn't leave. That was in the dispersal notice. So that's the kind of situation that we're dealing with. We're dealing with a tank being parked down the road in Park Rapids, Minnesota, sitting at the county courthouse. We're dealing with riot gear all over northern Minnesota in these tiny little towns. Last year, one of the people on this call actually was involved in a direct action who's going to speak. They pulled out an entire riot line that day out in the woods on a dirt road and a mobile command unit. These are the forces that we're standing against, and this is the forces that I've known ever since I've been engaged in land defense. These systems are not built by us, and they are not built for us. They are working exactly as they are supposed to. However, there are those moments of bravery, like Governor Whitmer over in Michigan, who said no to Line 5. And now Enbridge is suing Michigan, saying it can't actually oversee its own water. That's the kind of company we're dealing with here. And that's the kind of reality that we have on the ground. So to all of us that are looking at this and thinking about how do I get engaged, this isn't just about one pipeline. It's not just about this one fight. It's about, in this particular instance, yes, it's tar sands. It's Line 3, Keystone XL, Trans Mountain. We stop one of these pipelines, we're stopping the tar sands. That's the reality. This is the last pipelines, as Winona said. But we also have to take a stand against, we have to do something different to transition. And to me, what I see is the George Floyd uprisings. How quickly do we go to talking about abolishing the police because millions of people were marching in the streets? That's what direct action means. Imagine 1 million people standing in front of these machines instead of just a handful. So please get involved. Please support the front lines. Please support the land defenders. Please support the people that are out looking for people like the missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. There's another speaker that's going to speak to that. But really appreciate the time, the space, and be brave, be bold. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Tara, for your bravery, your leadership, and your words here this evening. We highly appreciate you and know this is a hard moment in northern Minnesota. And a lot of people are asking, how can I practice solidarity? So you've answered some of those questions. People know where to follow up. And so if you haven't got your answers yet, please keep on populating the chat with your questions, and eventually we'll catch you and we'll make sure we answer them so everybody knows what next steps you can take to help us lead in this movement, because it's a collective leadership moment. We need all hands on deck, all hearts in the circle, all prayers living and breathing to stop line 3. Our next speaker is Tasha Martineau, who is throwing down and having the back of our sisters who are running the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives campaign through MN 350. She's a co-founder of the Gitchigumi Scouts, which is playing a key role in in the campaign to go out and find our missing women and girls and relatives when they go missing. She's a two-spirit Indigenous anarchist, single mother of 4, Fond du Lac band member, and water protector. Tasha, thanks for all the ways you lead, including trying to develop a line of defense right along the line. Please take it away and share your wise words. Tasha, are you there? Yep. Is Tasha on mute?
I don't see her or their video, Sam.
Uh-huh.
See Tasha?
All right, I will send her a text and maybe we'll catch Tasha in later. We'll come back to Tasha. It looks like that's what we'll have to do since we don't see her here yet. So Tasha, we will hold space for you whenever you arrive. Is Representative, is Ilhan Omar here? She is. Okay, so she doesn't need an introduction to those of us on the call because she's been offering national leadership on this question and many other questions that are intersectional with the question of climate justice. Ilhan Omar represents Minnesota's 5th congressional district, and she is an experienced Twin Cities analyst, organizer, public speaker, and advocate. She was sworn into office on January 2019 in the heat of President 45's administration and had to endure a lot of unnecessary, unproductive insults to her character and leadership by the guy who's now on his way out. She's the first Somali American member of Congress, the first woman of color to represent Minnesota, and one of the first 2 Muslim American women elected to Congress. So we're still in a time of many firsts here in the United States. As a legislator, she has been committed to fighting for the shared values of the 5th District, values that put people at the center of democracy. Listen to that again, put people at the center of democracy. If we put people at the center of democracy, we would not have been needing to have this conversation tonight because our MPCA and our governor would have done the right thing. They did not because they did not put people first. She plans to focus on tackling many of the issues that she hears most about from her constituents, including climate justice. She also plans to resist attempts to divide and push destructive policies that chip away at our rights and freedoms, and to build a more inclusive and compassionate culture, one that will allow our economy to flourish and encourage more Americans to participate in our national democracy. So without further ado, we are really, really lucky in her busy schedule on a different front line for Ilhan Omar to be here with us tonight and share some words of wisdom and solidarity.
Thank you so much, Sam, and to all of you. It's really great to be here in community and in solidarity. I know we are all gathered tonight because we know time is running out to act on climate action. The first thing we need to do is accept that we cannot keep building fossil fuel infrastructures. It is dangerous and dirty. Enbridge has presided over some of the worst pipeline catastrophes in our nation's history. They enmeshed over 800 spills between 1999 and 2010 alone, including the devastating Kalamazoo River disaster, the largest inline oil spill in US history. They've been sued by multiple states for failing to adequately inspect and operate their pipelines. But even if this pipeline miraculously never leaks, it will still be responsible for a staggering amount of greenhouse gases. Minnesota has made some great commitments to increasing renewable energy usage across the state, but Line 3 alone would undo all the aspects of that progress, and it will be impossible to meet our climate goals. It is expensive. Line 3 would be the largest constructive project in the state history. But don't let that talk of private investment fool you. Enbridge gets massive subsidies at all levels of government. We could be using our tax subsidies and encourage that so-called private investment for infrastructure that will help us meet our climate goals and keep our air and water clean. We need infrastructure for the 21st century, not for the 20th or 19th century. Earlier this year, I introduced the End Polluter Welfare Act with Senator Bernie Sanders. There is no justifiable reason we are spending billions of dollars to subsidize the most profitable company in the world, especially while they're actively killing our planet. Most of all, Line 3 betrays the promises that we made to indigenous sovereign nations. For generations, American leaders have signed treaty after treaty with tribes, only to immediately disregard them. We have an opportunity to do better by the mistakes that were made by prior generations. And I hope we take that seriously. When our grandchildren and great-grandchildren look back at this moment of American history, they will ask why so many good people did nothing. Why so many of our fellow Americans allowed a handful of companies to destroy our planet for the sake of their bottom line. This is not a regulatory issue or a policy issue. This is a moral issue. We can either choose to stand with future generations and their planet, or we can allow the same handful of companies to sell us out for profit. I, for one, choose to stand with the planet and with the people, and I'm with you in fighting to stop Line 3.
Thank you, Ilhan. I can't thank you enough for your bold, brilliant, loving leadership in our national government. And I wish for a day when you are surrounded by people who share your spirit of what it means to practice democratic representation. If everybody there was like you, we would be in a different situation. We have to work together to create that reality and that future outcome. Now it is my honor to introduce a young man who has been in this fight since he was just a kid. And he is still in this fight, and he's offering amazing, loving leadership in this fight. And he's going to break down for us the ways in which we can take statewide and national climate leadership from here in terms of next steps with the Attorney General, next steps with the governor, next steps with legal challenges in Minnesota and at the federal government level in the treaty rights fight, led by White Earth and Red Lake. So Andy Pearson, thanks for your leadership, and thanks for the words you're going to share with us now.
Thank you so much, Sam, and everybody else who spoke. It's just such a pleasure and an honor to be here. So my name's Andy. I work with Sam at Minnesota 350. I have for about 7 years, and fighting Line 3 has been much of that time for me. I do want to talk about some basics. We have a map that I think we're going to put up on the screen share here. There we go. Thank you. Because I think it's helpful to get a visual on what the project is we're talking about. So going to go over a little bit of history and talk about what it might look like into the future here. The Line 3 project, as we know, it's a pipeline under construction. Like Winona said, it would carry tar sands oil. That's this really heavy oil that's extracted up in Alberta, Canada. It's inefficient to extract. It's dirty when you refine it. And when it's spilled, it sinks in water rather than floating. So it's really hard to clean it up. There's another pipeline that currently exists that's also called Line 3, and you can see it up there at top. It's orange. It's part of the Enbridge mainline corridor. It was built in the 1960s, and it's getting pretty old. Enbridge wants to replace it, air quotes, replace it with a new line, but it's not really a replacement. You can see that in the map. That's the green line. That's what they want to do. That's what they're building now. They want to put it in a different place, a corridor where there aren't any Enbridge pipelines, through hundreds of wetlands and prime wild rice watersheds, and through the 1855 treaty territory. And it's a bigger pipe than the old one. So just talk a little bit about the process that got us here. The pipeline's been fought since the day it was proposed back in 2014. We have gone through years of legal and regulatory process. Those processes have mostly found that the line is a bad idea. Winona talked about the massive climate damage, 50 coal plants, also obviously huge impacts. The review processes found that the impact on Native communities in Minnesota would be adverse and disproportionate. They found the waters that the pipeline would cross would be some of the most sensitive in the state, including the Mississippi River headwaters. And even the judge who ran a lot of this process concluded that Enbridge's proposal didn't meet Minnesota law and the pipeline shouldn't be built. And unfortunately, we have an unelected government body called the Public Utilities Commission, or the PUC, and they approved it anyway, ignoring a lot of the data that had been put in front of them, including climate and treaty impacts. There were 68,000 comments, or about 94% of all public comments on the record saying not to approve it, but they did it anyway. So a lot of groups took the PUC to court, and that's where we are now. So they're being taken to court right now by 3 Native nations, a bunch of grassroots groups, including some of the groups on this call, and even Minnesota's Department of Commerce, which is a state agency, because they say that Enbridge never showed this pipeline was actually needed. That's a really big deal to have a state agency in a lawsuit against another state agency that approved a pipeline. You know you did the wrong thing when you get that. These are really promising lawsuits, and they deserve a chance to be heard in court. And until they are, the process isn't done. But these lawsuits won't be finished until next summer. And as we know, construction is happening now. So our governor, Tim Walz, as has been said, he could have done something here. He could have denied important water permits like many other governors have done for big fossil fuel projects, or he could have barred Enbridge from getting started in a pandemic. Instead, he's accelerated the process over overwhelming opposition, including from his own lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, who is an Indigenous woman from White Earth, which is one of the nations in court trying to stop the pipeline. So what does it look like from here, right? The courts could still stop the pipeline through a stay on construction. We hope that they do. We won't know about that for several weeks. There are also groups working on a federal lawsuit to overturn the Trump administration's water permits they gave for Line 3. There are major problems with those permits. We could see an order from that lawsuit process, which would stop construction. We could also see executive action from our governor, or potential action from our attorney general in Minnesota, all powerful figures, all with potential levers that they could push, in particular the governor, if he wanted to stop construction, because that's what we need right now, is to stop construction. As we know, as we've heard, Enbridge is building, and they're building before all the words are in as to whether this pipeline is even something that's aligned with Minnesota law or not. We know it's bad for so many reasons, and we know that we need to stop it. So thanks so much, and I'll leave it there and turn it back over to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Andy. We are still working on trying to get Tasha in. She's having some trouble getting in. And I just want all of the panelists, to the extent you can, to take a look at all of the comments that are flooding into the chat. There's a whole lot of people who are offering great insights, but also asking really important questions. And in order to support people in being able to offer those insights, it's important to try and figure out a way to respond to people in the chat. If a question is directed at you, that would be wonderful. So the next person I want to introduce to you is a medical doctor extraordinaire who has taken a significant amount of time, in addition to her medical practice, to be on the front line working with us through the pipeline resistance team of MN350. She's also an assistant professor of internal medicine with public health degree from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She's a practicing physician and has been caring for hospitalized COVID-19 patients in the Twin Cities during this pandemic. So she's very much on the front line. She's an active member of Minnesota Health Professionals for a Healthy Climate and an incoming national board member of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Lalitha Surapanini her areas of interest are climate change and health, and how physicians can play more of an active role in advocating for clean climate policies that promote planetary health. She has provided testimony to the Minnesota legislature on many occasions, is a science communicator and commentator, and regularly speaks with media outlets on public health issues. Lalitha, we're really honored you're here. Please share your words of wisdom and health.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that introduction. I'm so honored to be here today. I wanted to share with you all some of the science behind the process so far, as well as the advocacy efforts of many of the scientists and health professionals in Minnesota here. I wanted to share my screen so that I could show you some slides. I moved to Minnesota 2 years ago, and that's when I first heard about Line 3. And so the first thing that I did was try to understand the impacts of it. And in a very typical science manner, I and my colleagues wrote a paper that outlines the risks of health risks of construction as well as operation of Line 3. And we've already talked about all of these impacts, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about these impacts. However, there's in addition to climate and water health, there's also a much more imminent threat that is COVID-19. So as Sam mentioned, I have been taking care of COVID-19 patients since the beginning of this pandemic. Those are the numbers from our state. And by the time I put them up, they are going to increase. We are in a surge. We're being told to watch for a holiday surge around Thanksgiving and Christmas. However, Enbridge plans to bring 4,000 workers, half of them from out of state, into temporary housing, so Airbnbs and rental properties across rural Minnesota. Health professionals across the state were shocked that this was allowed and green lighted by all of our state agencies. And so around 200 health professionals signed a petition asking Governor Walz and the Department of Health to issue a stay on Line 3 construction as a COVID-19 mitigation measure. We did a lot of organizing in a very public manner. As you can see, it was also reported in The Guardian. And then in the very last minute, Enbridge put in a revised COVID-19 plan that says that the bulk of workers, the peak of 4,000 workers will be in 4 weeks or around the end of this month. But it shifts a burden of mitigating all of the COVID-19 impacts to individual workers. Bottom line is that there is no safe way of building a pipeline of this magnitude in a global pandemic. I also wanted to share some of the advocacy efforts that we have all been involved in. Over the past 2 years, many scientists from across disciplines and health professionals, including doctors, nurses, psychologists, have been talking to Governor Walz's office and letting them know of the health risks that this pipeline poses. We were told to engage in the process, so we went to the Public Utilities Commission to give testimony. We stood outside in the cold from 3:30 a.m. We stood in line so that we get to testify and outline all of our concerns. You can see here some of climate scientists and geologists, water scientists were involved in providing testimony. However, the PUC, as you've heard, issued a certificate of need for an oil pipeline in a climate crisis. Then we went to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and at this time the organizing was online because we were in a pandemic, and health professionals, despite working in the hospital, also took time, including medical students, took time to ask the Pollution Control Agency to deny water permits. After refusing to consider climate impacts on water quality, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency issued water permits. 12 of the 17 members of Environmental Justice Advisory Group for the MPCA resigned in protest. So we are here today where Line 3 lies at the intersection of 3 of the really big issues that are facing us. In addition to climate crisis, COVID-19, we know, has disproportionately impacted Indigenous communities, BIPOC communities, and rural communities. So I'm so glad that you're all here today. Line 3 is not just a Minnesota issue. The carbon footprint of this pipeline alone is 5% of US annual greenhouse gases. It is an issue that needs national attention. And this is not just an environmental issue either. This is a public health issue that impacts everyone, no matter what side of the pipeline fight we are on. And so I'm glad that you're raising your voice with us, because the actions we take today will impact the health of generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalisa, for your wise words and your leadership and engagement in this struggle. Tasha Martineau, who was not able to get on, right away earlier, is now here. And so we will take some time to hear from them. Again, Tasha is a founder of Gitchigumi Scouts and is very actively involved in many ways, in addition to the campaign that MN350 is running for missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. She is also really deeply involved as one of the warriors on the front line in this fight against Line 3, which we will win. Tasha, welcome, and please share your words of wisdom and solidarity and, guide us in this movement moment.
Am I unmuted?
Nope, we're ready for you.
All right, these Zooms always confuse me. I'm on the phone with it today. Bonjour, Debiki Giza, Skijikwe, Nindijnakas, Nagachi Winang, Ndunjiba, Magizi Dodem. Hello, my name is Tasia Martineau. I'm a Two-Spirit Indigenous anarchist from the Fond du Lac Reservation, co-founder of Gitchigumi Scouts, and I am currently putting my body on the line to try and stop Line 3 here in my home community of the Fond du Lac Reservation. That puts me in a really difficult space because, you have many, many strong frontline warriors who are throwing down in Palisades, Grand Rapids, all across the board. My fight is here. My fight is here at home. And I grew up in this community. I was raised in this community, and I know every single person in this community. That includes people who are subcontracted to work for the company. That includes the police officers who have to respond to the calls. And it's just, when the fight is at home, it's like this pipeline isn't just, Enbridge is not just tearing up the land. They're dividing an entire community. I'm not sure where the fight is going to go from here, but I know that it's just starting, and I made a solemn promise to the next 7 generations that I would stop Line 3. I made a promise to all 4 of my beautiful children that I would stop Line 3. And today I had a confrontation with a police officer that, growing up, he was a real inspiration in my life. I didn't have many people in my life that I was able to look up to. There weren't many safe people in my life. I come from a family that struggled with addiction, and there was a lot of subsequent issues that resulted in me being removed and me being raised in the foster care system. But I do remember growing up that every time that the police were involved, it was this officer, and his name's Christopher Durfee of the Fond du Lac Police Department. And he was the one who would swoop in and bring us to safety, so this isn't just some random officer. This is a family member, and knowing that I have to face off against him because of the choices that we've made in life and because of who we've become on our path, it really tears me up inside. And I was able to have a emotional conversation with him about that today. There's a live feed on my Facebook page that you can watch and witness that interaction with Christopher Durfee today. Right now, the fight in Fond du Lac is just Northern Clearing. They've been showing up and we've been showing up as well. We made a promise that every time Enbridge work happened here on Fond du Lac, we'd put boots to the ground and we would disrupt it. And right now, our fight hasn't been too heavy. Just showing up, just making a presence and just being vocal enough, they cease work, and we're able to stop construction and their work just by being present there. And I understand that moving forward, that's not going to continue. The work isn't going to be that easy, and I'm prepared for that. There are many frontline Indigenous people here who are gearing up for the fight ahead. We're going to make a trip up to support Winona and Gnu up there at Palisades. And just moving forward, I'm grateful, humbled, and honored to be on this journey with so many amazing people. You know, there's been many times where this journey's gotten hard and I've been scared, but the support I feel from my Line 3 resistance family is so strong. And, you know, they say the humble never stumble. And I see that with all of my amazing friends who are throwing down and, you know, risking their own safety so that we can stop Line 3. And I say when, I don't say if, because I know together we will stop Line 3. And I'm just happy to be in this space with you. I'm sorry, everyone, that I was late. I am not great at technology, but I'm happy to be here sharing this space with all of you. Miigwech.
Tasha, thank you so much for making sure that we got you in and you were able to share your important words and leadership in the struggle with the people who are in the call. And we look forward to continuing to support your leadership in the struggle. And as you say, we're in this fight to win it. We will, because we must stop Line 3. I want to now introduce a brilliant young activist who is one of the many youth climate interveners who showed up to say, along with Greta Thunberg, who's been made famous for this, but before Greta, there were many other young people who stepped forward in this fight, including the youth climate interveners, who said, adults aren't taking enough responsibility. We are now going to legally intervene. So I want to give a warm welcome to Frances Weatherall, and she's going to share a poem with us. So Frances, please share.
Hi, thank you so much to everyone who's here and to the organizers who invited me to speak. I want to invite, before I share the poem, I just want to update you a little bit on what we're doing on the process side here. The Public Utilities Commission claimed that treaty rights weren't relevant to their decision and ignored the climate impact of the project, accepting this 10% expansion of the tar sands industry. We as the youth climate interveners do not accept it. We are still in this fight. We want our day in court, like Winona said. I think this pipeline in and of itself is a violence, and it's just another slap in the face that they're allowing this construction to begin before the process has fully, before every word has been put in, like Andy said. But we do have a strong case, I feel. 94% of the public comments that were put in about Line 3 were opposed to Line 3. The judge who organized the materials for our case recommended that it be denied, the permits. So we will stop Line 3 one way or another, guys. We gotta stay strong and stay together. I want to invite everyone to get up if you want to, or just stretch your body a little bit while I share this poem. I'm gonna get up. Yeah. I want to recognize that it's a little bit difficult for us to feel each other's presences while we're in cyberspace here. But I want to acknowledge that we have over 1,000 people here. And just try to visualize for a minute 1,000 people with you right now, because that's what's happening. Okay. The poem is called Why Today? Today the water rises. Today the dream begins. Today your voice can sing. Today the air is warm. Today the call is new. The push and pull of wind, the breath inside of you. Today the earth is turning. Today the forest's burning. Today the rumble neath their feet is fracking stomach gurgling. Today the fire catches, the one inside our bones. Whoosh, we are the matches. Today we aren't alone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Francis. Beautiful poem, beautiful spirit. Thanks for reminding us to get back into our bodies and just sort of, be grounded in this moment together. The next person I'll introduce is a good friend of mine who I've been in this struggle with for many years. And after working as one of the founders of MN 350, she moved on to be the founder of Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. So as the executive director there and also as a professor of sustainability at the University of Minnesota, Julia has created a national faith organization training program, Be the Spark, and she has been fighting pipelines for more than 10 years, but sometimes takes a break to work alongside Winona in building the new economy, the just transition that we all need. And then every once in a while, she'll take a walk in the woods or play the fiddle. So Julia, thanks for the many ways you lead in this movement and for taking some time to share some words of wisdom and solidarity tonight. Julia.
Thanks so much, Sam. So I'm imagining this incredible group of over 1,000 people, and every one of you have a story within you that's about why you're here today. Probably there may be a time where there was some devastation, and hopefully you have some stories about times where you've seen collective action really work. I'll just take 20 seconds to tell you, when I was growing up, I had the privilege of living in a city, and yet I was next door to a vacant lot. And so I grew up in this wilderness of this vacant lot next door, playing in the trees and being a child. But I got back from a summer vacation visiting my grandparents, and there was an orange construction fence around the site next door, the lot. And all of the trees had been removed, and they were in the process of putting up what became a 9-room house, or a 9-bedroom house. It was like this huge thing. And that was the moment that I really started to understand about sort of the depth of human destruction. It took me a long time to get out of that. I felt totally powerless. And I want to credit Bill McKibben and the 350.org movement for really helping me to literally get beyond that story of powerlessness and move into a place where I can see that movements work. But I want to be honest, this past week up along the Mississippi River, along the Line 3 construction site, some of those emotions flooded back to me. I was watching as this machine, it moves, it cuts off the trees at the bottom. This is like out of the Lorax. And then this big claw comes and it picks the trees up, and it can pick like 2 or 3 trees up at a time and sort of toss them aside. And this is all happening right under these incredible activists who are sitting in the trees. So it was really humbling to be there. And I also, experienced this presence of law enforcement. I was at a site where Winona has her prayer lodge. We were building a fire, and law enforcement comes out of the trees and says, "You're arrested, do not move." We ended up only getting a citation and being able to leave on site, but it was this incredible experience of powerlessness, being in that place. So I guess I'm going to offer you this, which is different from most of the tools, which is to say that we think that we're going to get through this portal, right, this pandemic portal, through spiritual practice, through being at the river, doing that consistently. So this coming Thursday, a week from now, we're going to be bringing some incredible faith leaders to the river to be in solidarity. And we invite you to join us. I'll put the link in the chat when I'm done. But that will be online, and you can do that. We're also hoping people will come on the solstice at 4 o'clock as the sun is starting to go down. Find your own place of water. Where you can be in solidarity with all of the people throughout time who have been fighting this fight, and see how it is that the water has moved through us. So I'm gonna hand it back to you, Sam, and I just look forward to being with all of you in this movement, because as you say, we will win.
Thank you, Julia, for your long-standing leadership in this fight and your continued solidarity with the people on the front lines in northern Minnesota right now. So this is a moment of solidarity. Right now, we are asking you to all join us in an action. You know, the whole point of coming to a rally like this is to like say, okay, we're going to throw down, and we're not going to throw down tomorrow or next week. We're going to throw down right now. So this is the phone zap moment. Here is Governor Walz's phone number and the phone number at the Minnesota Department of Health. So while David in the background plays the Book of Life, we want people to pick one of these two numbers, and we want you to call the governor or the Department of Health or both of them, and we want you to tell them to stop line 3. So while they have, you don't have to say they failed up to this moment. You can just say, now is the time to step forward and step up. And here is a sample script that you can use. So, David, you can start that beautiful background music, and everybody get your phone out.
Thank you so much, Sam. My name is David Huckfeld. I'm a singer and songwriter from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I had my first child. My son, Billy, was born 8 months ago. And I tell you what, I didn't make it through 8 months of pandemic and 4 years of Donald Trump just to go backwards when it comes to taking care of our planet. So I'm going to play you this song written by the Anishinaabe singer-songwriter, Mr. Kisakola, a dear friend of mine. I send this out to the people on the front lines. It's called The Book of Life. Where are we going? Why are we leaving? Why do we suffer? What is the meaning? How do we live by? Who would you die for? What would you cry for? Is it all real? Do we have free will? What are the numbers? What is your passion? Why are you grateful? What makes you happy? What gives you courage? What does your heart say? Everything's a miracle. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Who are your neighbors? What will your friends say? Who is the kindest? What makes you proudest? What makes us good friends? Why am I different? Why do I struggle? Why do I hurt? Everybody worries. Why do we promise? What is existence? Why does it matter? Who should I stand by? Seeds of the future, rise of humanity. Everything is sacred. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Don't get excited, be conscientious. Who do I run to? What do I stand for? Who should I play for? What should I pay for? What makes it all worthwhile? How do I see it? How do I hear it? How do I move it when I get near it? How do I get through it? Everything's amazing, everything's wonderful. Life's full of sadness, love is the answer. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life.
Thank you for that beautiful, deep music, David. I'm going to hold off for a second before we move on because people are asking for you to go back to that last slide. People are still trying to catch that full script so they can do their part and make the calls. Thank you for going back to that slide. Wonderful. We're all in this together, and we have to take feedback loops from each other and just make sure we're all singing with enough coherence. So thanks for asking for what you need, folks who are making these calls. So those of us who've made our calls, just sort of, listen to the beat of your heart, hold your hand over your heart where people are finishing their moment of solidarity action. And we will move on to the next thing momentarily. In fact, maybe while I am introducing our next amazing speaker, people can finish their phone calls. So we just made phone calls to the Minnesota Department of Health and also to the governor in Minnesota. Our next speaker, Mahiar Saror, is going to guide us into two more actions at the national level. We're going to ask you all to sign on to a petition to President-elect Biden, and we're going to ask you to do some live tweeting in support of President Biden's opportunity to act on his first day in office. So those of you who do not already know the amazing and mighty Mahiar Saror, she is Sierra Club's national lobbying and federal. What is your title, Mahiar? I guess I'm not quite clear on what the title is, but she is like a national policy director for the Sierra Club. And she's here to talk to us about federal pressure points that we can use to make sure that President Biden does what he can and Vice President Harris does what she can to stop line 3. The climate impacts and effects and social costs, and enact a climate test, life cycle analysis, cumulative impact analysis of projects. We've already heard from Ilhan Omar, and we've heard from Winona that this one pipeline is equivalent to 50 coal-fired power plants. There's just no way there's any sanity in allowing it to happen. So thank you all for making all of those calls. And now let's take a moment and join with Mahiar Saror in taking some national action. Mahiar.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. It's an honor to share space. While I may not be back home in Minnesota, my heart feels home every day. Instead of building line 3, we can and we must build back better through rebuilding Minnesota and our country's infrastructure. We can invest in jobs, union jobs that pay a livable wage, build back our roads, our bridges, transit, broadband to connect our communities, and so much more. As my friends and colleagues named, renewable energy is growing faster in Minnesota than fossil fuels, producing jobs at a faster rate than any sector of the fossil fuel industry. And there are jobs in the removal of the existing line 3 after its decommissioning. As folks know, and as Andy mentioned on that map, the old line 3 is over 50 years old, has over 900 structural anomalies. And we know all pipelines leak. Communities in Kalamazoo saw 843,000 gallons of toxic tar sands crude dumped into Michigan's waterways, costing more than $1 billion in cleanup costs and making local residents sick. We must hold the incoming Biden-Harris administration accountable to their commitment to environmental justice. President-elect Biden can rescind the federal clean water permit for line 3, order an immediate pause on pipeline construction, and direct the Army Corps to conduct a robust federal environmental impact statement with a climate test that addresses cumulative impacts, a full life cycle analysis that considers tribal sovereignty, treaty rights, and climate impacts. President-elect Biden must stop tar sands infrastructure projects like Line 3, Keystone XL, Dakota Access Pipeline. We know Line 3 is not just a Minnesota issue. This is a national issue, and we need all of us rising up across the country to stop Line 3, stop KXL, stop DAPL, stop the build out of tar sands pipeline infrastructure across the country. On day one, President-elect Biden must divest from the era of fossil fuel production, reinvest in communities most impacted by the climate crisis. We have to end the extractive, fossil-fueled economy that has polluted Black and Indigenous and Brown communities and move us to a clean energy future. Minnesota has always been a leader in clean energy. It's time that we show up, and it's time the rest of the country shows up as well. But the only way that we can make this happen is for folks right now to take action to stop Line 3. And we have a way for you to take action tonight. So want to pull up the slide, we can first start with a petition. Awesome. So if folks can, I think someone is dropping a link in the chat. Yes, So stopthemoneypipeline.com/stopline3, sign the petition. We know that we're stronger together, and we need all of us to sign this petition right now. So take a minute to do that, and then we'll move you to the second ask. Awesome. And then the second ask with tweeting, if folks can pull out their phones or pull up their computer, send a tweet right now to Biden, at Biden. You're welcome to use this tweet. Show us you're serious about starting a clean energy revolution, protect everyone's future. Now is the time to stop Line 3 tar sands pipeline. Hashtag stop Line 3. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you, Mahiar, for getting people to take two phenomenal actions that quickly. And I'm noticing the chat and noticing that people feel really good about taking action and finding easy ways to contribute in solidarity in this fight. So as you think about ways to contribute, think about something you can do every single day. This is a time of daily pressure. And those of you who are able, it's a time to actually be a physical presence in ways that you can on the different, routes along this pipeline. So I want to now introduce somebody who, we kind of call a papa of the climate justice movement here in the United States. One of the fiercest people standing up against fossil fuel companies and big oil in the United States is Bill McKibben, a contributing writer to the New Yorker, a founder of 350, distinguished professor in residence at Middlebury College in Vermont. He was a recipient of the 2014 Right Livelihood Prize, which some of us know as the Alternative Nobel Prize. And he's also received the Gandhi Peace Award. And he's written many books that many of us, probably on this call have on our bookshelf. So without further ado, Bill, thanks for being who you are and being the consistent, mighty force that you are in the climate justice movement. Please share your words and warrior wisdom with us now.
Well, brother, thank you so much. And whoever's running the slideshow, I think it's fine to go back to that slide that tells people how to tweet and things. I don't want to disrupt the really important message by having you look at my face, which isn't all that useful here. I'm really grateful to all of you for inviting someone from outside the great state of Minnesota to come join you. I'm tonight in Vermont, in Abenaki country, in Bernie country, and but I am so completely there in heart and in spirit. It was really a pleasure to get to see my old friend Winona, who I've been working with for 4 decades now, and just great heroes like Tara and everybody else who've been on this call, and to get to hear the remarkable and calm and forceful voice of your Congresswoman. And I mean, this is a really powerful moment. So I'm going to tell you one small piece of good news. The climate movement won a big victory this morning when the state of New York decided to divest its massive $226 billion pension fund from fossil fuel, something that we've been fighting for many, many years. And that was a strong signal about where the future is going. We know that we're going to beat big oil, and it's going to take, that's what the future holds. We have them on the run. And that's what makes things like what's happening with Line 3 so incredibly infuriating, because these are the absolute last gasps of a dying, decadent, and disgusting system. And if we can stop them even for a little while, then they will never be built, because they are archaic and old-fashioned and yesterday's news, okay? So that's why it is so important that we are tweeting and calling, and that people are in court trying to get injunctions, and it's why it's so blessedly important, even though it's so desperately dangerous and hard and sad, that people are having to be up there on the front lines trying to slow down this machine. Everybody's talked about crucial issues tonight about sovereignty for Native nations, about the huge threat of the pandemic, and so on and so forth. I will just echo something that Ilhan Omar was saying about the fact that even if nothing ever leaked out of this pipeline, it would represent one of the biggest leaks of carbon into the atmosphere in the whole world. And we just can't afford that anymore. 2020 looks like it'll be the hottest year in history. We've seen fires in every corner of the planet like we've never seen before this year. We've seen floods like we've never seen before this year. We just saw 30 hurricanes in the Atlantic. The last 2 crashed into the same part of Central America. We think that Honduras saw damage equivalent to 40% of its GDP. As always, the iron law of climate change is the less you did to cause it, the harder you're hit. So what I want to say to you tonight, as we try to persuade government officials to do the right thing, as we try to persuade banks to do the right thing, as we try to get in the way of this machinery of destruction, what I want to say to you tonight is just that people around the world are watching what you're doing and understanding its importance and have you in their hearts. And that what you are doing is not just about, though this would be plenty, not just about those Native nations, not just about beautiful Minnesota, not just about those forests that are being destroyed, but you are standing up for the entire planet. We had a study that came out today that said one of the most shocking things I've ever read. It said the weight of things that humans have built on this planet, buildings and houses and roads, is now greater as of this year than the weight of all the biomass on planet Earth. If you added up every tree and every shrub and every animal and every coral reef, and you put it all together, it would weigh less than the stuff that we have covered this planet with. It is time to step away from that, and the place to start stepping away is this completely unnecessary, completely destructive, and completely stupid line 3. So thank you all so much for being part of this fight. And now let's bring it home as fast as we can. Just such blessings on you all. And all the rest of us will do what we can from a distance, do everything we can to help, because we are utterly behind you.
Thank you, Bill, for the many ways you lead in this movement and for your wise words this evening. We want to now honor that we have many of you already involved in the Stop the Money Pipeline. And the Stop the Money Pipeline is doing an event on December 11th. And we want you all, as one of your many steps, to take action and join with the Stop the Money Pipeline in that event. Some of you in the chat have asked, how can I tell whether or not where I'm investing my money or where I'm banking is a negative contributor in terms of climate injustice? And how can I put my resources through which I live my life into places that serve the people and serve planet? It's a really important question. And it's at the core of the conversation about the just transition that we want to facilitate. So here is a take action, slide. So please join the Stop the Money Pipeline and in delivering a letter to the banks, the insurance companies, and the asset managers that are all propping up line 3. And let's let all of them know that if you're not investing in life, we're not investing in you. If you're not investing in climate justice, we're not investing in you. We have the power in our hands. It's time for us in all ways possible to stop being meek and to stop being blind by turning to each other, building collective wisdom, and organizing for transformative results to take care of the earth and take care of the future and take care of all of our relatives in human and non-human forms all over Mother Earth. So I'm just going to let this sit here for a second so you can sort of take this in. And I think there's a slide you want to put up with a link to the action. Maybe not. All right. Well, in the interest of time, what I want to do is, honor that. Oh, here you go. On the ground needs. So we have, I'm going to turn it back to our relatives who are fighting on the front lines in northern Minnesota. Tara, Winona, and Tasha to tell us about on the ground needs. And I also want to, give you the nice surprise that Tasha, when she got on, she also asked a drummer to share a song with us from, her nation. So we're going to be blessed with a song to get us all joined in one spirit before we close out tonight. So make sure you stick around for that. So Tara, Winona, Tasha, I yield back to you to talk about the frontline needs that you want people to pay attention to right now.
Anine, this is Winona here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. There are a number of water crossings that Enbridge is going for right now. They're trying to put in pipe, and as Julia described it, it's a terrifying, just like shattering through the North Woods. Public lands. This is a taking of public lands. These are all public lands that Enbridge is working on or right adjacent to, and we're the public. And in this country, we believe that you should know what a democracy does, and the state of Minnesota just gave away all these rights to this corporation. And so we're asking you to come north. If you can, you should come north. You should come to see the public lands of Minnesota, dress warm, be sportsy, outdoorsy. Come up on the Great River Road, on the Mississippi River, because on the Great River Road, there are people who are doing great and epic things and standing for our water, and come pray with us. And then look at those maps over there, Bacchus, Minnesota, pipes filling up that town, across the North Country. There are places, be present, be here, be all over these police and how they are treating our people, the militarization of the North for a Canadian multinational, and help us stand. Every day we are able to stop something, our Mother Earth breathes better, and we get closer to our day in court. We want our day in court. Come on, Tim, give us our day in court. That's what we want. That's what justice looks like. And Enbridge could wait. They're big. They got other things to do. Just let them wait it out while we get our day in court.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I saw some questions about how we do this when it's a pandemic. One of the hashtags should definitely be pandemic pipeline, because that's exactly what this is. It is a pandemic pipeline. It is a plague on the earth. It is a plague on the climate. It's a plague on all of us. There are a couple ICU beds in Aiken County. Imagine what happens if even some of these workers show up with COVID-19 and spread that all over our communities and end up taking out a bunch of our people. That said, there are ways to practice safe pandemic protocols. Most of these demonstrations at this point, we're outside. We are outside because the land is being destroyed as we speak. I mean, before we sat down for this call, I took Winona out and we were over in the Crow Wing River looking at that and looking at the absolute swath of destruction going through the middle of the forest. These are the places that people don't see. These are the parts that people don't want to look at. We have to, and I guess this is not just for Line 3, but I'm hoping as a climate movement, we recognize that we need to be brave, that we have to actually stand with our words. If we're saying this is climate crisis, then we should be willing to do something that's actually uncomfortable and put ourselves at risk, because we're talking about the eradication of all life on Earth as we know it. That statistic Bill just gave, that is so appalling to think about. Man-made things, which is basically what human beings have ripped out of the earth, and then I'm guessing a lot of that is probably garbage and refuse, weighs more than the biomass that's growing. I mean, I really hope that we are not paralyzed by these massive statistics, but that we are spurred into action to do something about it. If we're past the point of, no return, I still want to look at my children, my grandchildren, at others' grandchildren and say, I did everything I possibly could to give you a better world. I did everything that I possibly could to at least give you the world that I have, and hopefully one that's more, it's transitioned and it's more just than the one that we have now. So please find your bravery. I know there's a list of camp supply needs and things like that. I mean, yeah, it's cold and we need wood, warm spaces, all the things. But more than anything, we need to let Tim Walz know that his decision was that he has to live with that. That's his climate legacy. His climate legacy is young people chaining themselves to machines. It is thousands of people out looking him square in the face at his climate progress. I mean, the guy said, if Washington won't lead, then we will. Well, this is what leadership apparently looks like to him. And now we're turning to the Biden administration. So please also follow up with Sierra Club and their petition to the Biden administration. We'll keep pushing those levers too. So miigwech to all of you, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tara. Tara, there's a question that just came in the chat that I think it's important to answer in terms of firewood. If people want to bring firewood, it has to be northern Minnesota firewood, or can it come from other places?
I mean, there's lots of wood around the area, you know. It's really not that bad. We did. What's that?
Bring your chainsaw.
Bring your chainsaw. Yeah, I mean, bring your bow saw. We did get some really cool donations out at Standing Rock of some trees out from the West Coast, and that was a really beautiful act of solidarity. We are not in a situation where we don't have wood all over. That was kind of a different scene over in the plains. They don't really have wood for a number of different reasons. Actually, most of their wood had been put underwater by the dam that was put in over there, but that's a whole other story. It's a story of, again, oppression and eradication and suppression. Just like here in Minnesota, we're working with logged forests and rivers that are already been pretty harmed by the extraction that's happened here. So we're trying to turn a new leaf. Yeah, we need socks. We need gear.
We need people.
We need people more than anything.
We need people
more than anything. So that's the bottom.
Yeah.
People more
Come
than
out of your little pod and stay in your little pod, and then do a protest. You know, I mean, not just a protest, actually stand. You know.
Thank you, Tara. So I want to close by yielding back to Tasha and the drummer with the bear song from Fond du Lac. So Tasha, are you there with your drummer?
Yes. Are you able to see me? I've been
I don't see you.
trying to figure out the Zoom. Okay.
I see you. I see you.
All right. Bonjour. As far as needs go here in Fond du Lac, we do have a Gitchigumi list for the needs of us here on the front lines. Don't shine it right in my face. I want to introduce you to my drummer. This is also a interesting story for those of you who don't know me and don't follow me on social media. You want to introduce yourself?
Bonjour, Nishnabdug, Gakinagiko, Babang Gizugo, Henny, these Nakas, Nagatchinang, and Donjaba, Nigizir, no them. Jason, I worked on the pipeline, Northern Clearing, and I come to join the No Line 3 fight because I could see that how we were raping Mother Earth. So, me, Mama, Ki. So, we sing the bear song. So, to protect us and give us good medicine and fight for us. So.
welcome.
Thank you so much, Jason and Tasha, for bringing us to a close with that music straight from the front line, from the voices of the people who are dreaming and praying with the land every day, every second. Tasha, I can't thank you enough for that gift to end us with. I want to remind us, using an African proverb, if we want to go fast, we go alone. But if we want to go far, we go together. This is a moment when all relatives, no matter what kind of a body you're in, no matter which land you're living on, you affirm treaty rights as primary rights in all questions of climate justice and in all questions regarding Line 3. Tanya Abed had asked a question early in the Q&A, why is the DNR not honoring treaty rights? That doesn't make any sense. All branches of our government in Minnesota have failed to honor treaty rights, passed the buck to the federal government. So now Red Lake and White Earth are carrying, this to the federal government to act. And we in Minnesota need to declare that to be a Minnesotan is to be a defender of treaty rights and a defender of the water. That's the kind of future we need in this state, and that's the kind of future we will create all over Mother Earth with our loving hands and hearts joined together in solidarity. I can't thank you enough for being with us tonight. Many blessings as you take care of your own body and spirit and your own family. Take care of your needs and join with us in the needs of solidarity in this moment. And together we will win. Thank you. Many blessings. Have a good night.
Seek the woods, protect the water. The chop and carry days are through. The hearts of the women have survived the manslaughter, madness they've suffered too. New songs will sing their praises, new shelters for old storms. I believe in the strength of the softness. There's a way burdens a new world's being born. Some call her the mother, some call her my girl, night flying woman who always knows, sister and daughter, lady of the water, grandmother moon through the rain and the snow. But her name was every wind.